Gethsemane was nearby, the olive trees on the other side of the stone wall casting dark shadows on the stony ground in the moonlight. Behind the temple wall on the other side of the valley, the city glowed with light from the windows where people celebrated the Passover in their homes. In the background, the towers of Herod's palace rose toward the heavens in the night. Inside, in the cobblestone courtyard, the Roman guards waited. And somewhere in the dark of the night, Judas was on his way. Jesus had taken 3 of his disciples with him and gone aside. And then he left them and went to pray alone. And since he usually prayed aloud, they would hear what he said. It was an unusual kind of prayer. He prayed to avoid what was about to happen, that the cup poured for him would be taken away. He struggled with something so inhumanly difficult and unbearable that his body was hunched over the ground. What was so hard? The fear of death and torture? He certainly knew what fear was. He was true man. But Jesus didn't lack courage. He had walked right through the crowd of raging men in Nazareth. He didn't have to die then. He didn't have to die now either. He didn't have to wait for the betrayer and guards to come. It was only a few minutes to the crest of the Mount of Olives. Over there, just on the other side of the hill, was where the vast Jewish wilderness began. It would have been easy for him to escape to safety there. But he stayed where he was. He prayed even more intently. And so it was something worse than death, this cup that he now took upon himself. Later, the disciples would understand it. Peter, who fell asleep that night, would write many years later that Christ bore our sins in his body upon the tree of the cross. Paul would say that Christ was made sinful for our sakes. He became a curse for our sake, subjected to God's righteous judgment. What happened next is that Christ emptied the cup that contained the entire world's sin, the entire world's shame and disgrace, all its cruelty and evil, its dirtiness and vulgarity, from the greatest evil deed to the most deplorable pettiness of everyday life. Everything was squeezed together and was in this cup. And he emptied it to the last drop. The entire contents became his. He bore it now in his body. He who loved his Father above everything and would always do his will, who had been tempted in every way but had never diverted from his course. Now he would make all of that part of himself. That's what was so extremely hard, so terrible that he prayed to his Father to escape it if there was any possibility. But there was no such possibility. Not if the world was to be saved. Not if the immense unhappiness that separated us from God would be bridged and everything would be good again. And so he drank the cup. Jesus drank the cup for you and for me.